Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of late season offense matches. After Ash's wildly successful debut in her first bonus week, she got a chance to run it back again, and this time she swept the entire week by herself. I didn't end up changing anything from her previous Omni-Tank setup. Adding Null Sea Disrupt and Distant Counter to Ash's weapon give her an extremely powerful set of combat effects to work with, allowing her to shrug off enemy sweep or dazzle effects, while also slanting follow-up attacks in her favor and neutralizing any enemy special charge manipulation. Her Sea Skills Warp effect is really useful for navigating tricky layouts, and Steady Breath lets her trigger a soul on her first counterattack every combat. Getting that instant soul is really useful with Mispel on her team, since the combination of true damage effects from her weapon and Domain of Flame give Ash an absurd amount of self-healing and one-shot potential. Having access to Flame and an in-season legendary Eliwood also offers her damage reduction, if she needs it, and bonus doubler, while Milla and Peony continue to be the support staples of late seasons. Now that we've gone over the team, let's get to the first match. This match will be a pretty straightforward way to start the week off. They don't actually have a 7th unit, which is odd when they do have a note on their team. This slot is a bit suspiciously empty, and since their Leaf and other Leaf aren't using Dark Blessings, I wonder if their 7th slot unit was supposed to be down here and just might not be blessed correctly either. It's a bit unfortunate, since it does make these two units a lot easier to handle when they aren't getting any bonus stats, and it also affects their lift loss too. Hopefully they figure it out and get it fixed. They've also got an unequipped Sigurd to make sure that he doesn't get baited and only dances, along with a Wolf and an in-season legendary Sigurd rounding out their squad. There's quite a bit of threat on this team, even without merges and mixed up blessings. And if you're not careful, they can overwhelm an unprepared offense. It's a little interesting that they didn't give Sigurd a pre-charged Holy Knight Aura with Quickened Pulse, but it probably doesn't matter too much since they're trying to cover as many of the starting tiles as they can with their ranged cavalry squad. I don't think I'm going to have too many problems here. It should be a pretty straightforward match, mostly thanks to Sigurd not having a weapon equipped, which makes it very safe for us to just bait everything in the first turn. We should be able to do that by having Milla use Ash's Warp to jump past her. It'll rally her to complete her spectrum of buffs. We'll have Flame move here, and then Dancer, which lets Ash jump past her onto this gravity trap, and it is real. And then Flame can move over here to the safe spot. Leaf should never actually be able to reach this tile since Sigurd doesn't have a pre-charged special, and I am expecting Leaf to attack before Sigurd does, since if I figured this out correctly, he's the only one who can actually do damage to Ash. And he can do a chunk, and Ash can't actually heal it back thanks to Fatal Smoke.
Please forgive me.
But unfortunately, the rest of his team can't follow through. And while Sigurd moves in here, he's only attacking first since he's also using Fatal Smoke, and means that, well, Ash can't actually heal from that combat. Note moves next. She has least health to lose, and heals Ash the least. But from there, she's just going to carve her way through the remaining threats.
Do try to understand.
Poor Leaf. Gets one-shotted pretty handily twice over. And, well,
Please forgive me.
Wolf isn't having a good time either. And then from here, it's just a matter of picking up these Aether pots before we close things out. We don't have to worry about anything, since the Dancer doesn't have a weapon.
What's your plan?
And that makes it very easy to just work our way towards these pots. We'll just dance Mispel and get him towards this pot in the upper left.
Lord Asker,
Move
guide
Ash
us.
forward. And we should finish this off next turn.
Is
And just
something
let
afoot?
Flame move up here to get this first pot.
Fancy
This
that.
will move here to grab the second.
Truly?
And then have Ash demolish Sigurd and close out the first match of the week. That's a fun way to start. Let's see what we get next. This match will be another pretty straightforward one. It's a fairly basic defense of in-season legendaries and mythics to just prevent as much lift loss as possible. There's nothing wrong with that approach. It works pretty well just as a basic mitigation setup, and can still catch people off guard if they look at it and underestimate what these legendaries can do with all of these extra stats. Makai is, in particular, a pretty annoying one, since the 30% damage reduction she gets on the first hit can help her survive long enough to land a second hit and finish something off. Faye is also not someone you want to underestimate, since this pre-charged miracle effect can be very hard to handle. And the menaces from both Faye and Note can also help get in the way, especially when everything in this front area is getting +6 to both defensive stats, assuming the menace goes off from Faye, making everything a bit bulkier than you might expect. I don't think we're going to have too many problems here, though. I think that Ash should have a pretty easy time with this overall. I'm going to take the first turn just to test this trap and start moving into
Is
position.
something afoot?
Okay, that was fake. Means that a lot of my
Truly?
maneuvering to try and avoid the damage
morning.
wasn't necessary, but it's okay.
Lord Asker, guide us.
We'll just
What's your
get
plan?
Ash into position
be
and
done.
Milo getting ready to isolate Triandra for this next turn. And then we'll move in here.
My
We'll start
turn?
with having Eliod rally Ash to get a ruse on Nakaya and Corin and Faye.
I
Then
do
we'll
not
move Ash
object.
forward,
Ready.
dance her, and
Lord
then
Asker,
move her
guide
all the
us.
way up here.
Now.
Move Muspel in behind her, and move
Away we
Flame
go.
over here to support her from the side. And then we'll say go. Nakaya shouldn't actually use her assist here, since she can do damage to Ash. But it's not enough to let her
Please forgive me.
survive this, especially since even if Ash didn't one-shot her, she'd still prevent the follow-up and get a second attack of her own. Shiranja moves next, and meets a very similar fate. And then the melee should all move in. Work for him. 1 damage. She does a better job of surviving this first
Please
hit,
forgive me.
but the follow-up isn't going to be something she can handle. Hell moves in next, but with Hell and Faye,
Try to understand.
Ash has a very good way to punch through their health bar on the first swing and then finish them off on the second, thanks to Muspel.
Do try to understand.
And since the life unending heal only happens after the combat, Faye doesn't survive here. And well, Tiki's just not going to have a good time here at all.
Consider it done.
And down she goes. And that just leaves the 7th unit Note in the corner, not able to assist her team. So at this point all we need to do is try to pick these ether pots up before finishing the match, and I think there's a funny way we can get this one in the corner. It'll have to wait a turn then. That's fine.
Of course.
Means we can just break this first pot and let Muspel start
Maybe
opening things up a
this
little,
way.
Let's see now.
and wait a turn. Oh, that's right. did actually forget about this bolt tower. Even
Are
with that,
still
though,
my
not too
blessing?
worried. Ash will be fine against Note, especially
Now.
when
Away we go.
Flame can first jump over here to heal her
Good morning.
before getting danced,
Is something
and
afoot?
then jump over here to pick up this Aether pot, which leaves
Truly?
Ash with all of her buffs online and ready to end this match. Yep. Menace or not, Note's just not going to get a lot done to Ash
Consider
here.
it done.
It's down she goes. That was a fun one. Let's see what we get next. This match will be a fun one to see, just for a bit of a CYL5 theme, including a Brave Edelgard, Brave Claude, and a Brave Dimitri, backed up by 3 mythics for extra stats, and a Liane. The pre-charged series on Sothis is a fun touch, and can help her snipe any unsuspecting targets, but overall it's a fairly basic, straightforward team. It is nice to actually see all of their blessings lined up, though, and this unity on Dimitri can actually make him extremely bulky if the enemy team happens to be running a sabotage defense. With that said, I don't think we're actually going to have too many problems with this. I will need to take a turn just to set things up, but other than that, we should be able to get things started pretty easily. I'm going to wait just one turn so that we can get a couple of movements
Like
forward
this.
and backwards,
Good morning.
which will
Of
also
course.
let us start breaking our
My
way
turn?
towards these Aether pots for later. And now that everyone has
Let's see
access to
now.
where they need to go, we're going to rally Ash to debuff the core of their team,
Lord Asker,
and we
guide
move
us.
Ash forward to clear off Claude's
It
chills.
will be done.
We'll can move forward to support her,
Ready.
and we'll dance her with Peony, which should
do
let
not
her
object.
move all the way in and just one-shot this Note. One-shotting Note here means that we don't have to worry about the menaces for next turn, and more importantly means that we should be able to knock out these 5 units in one round, leaving only Sothis to
Now.
try and guard their Aether pots. Muspel's just going to move in behind her to enable
something
that
afoot?
extra damage on the first hit, and we'll say go. Yep. Liane moves in first here, since I don't think any of them are actually going to get to do damage to Ash, and she has the least amount of health to lose.
Please forgive me.
And down goes one. Oh, Hell moves in next. She can do some damage, thanks to
For Lord Asker.
targeting Ash's res, but it's not enough to keep her alive. Dimitri moves next, and actually, kind of oddly, doesn't even bother
Please forgive
keeping
me.
his unity online. And, well, without that, it's very easy for Ash to take him down. Adel moves in,
Do you try to understand?
can't get anything done. And then Claude goes last,
Ha!
and doesn't get anything either.
Consider it done.
And that just leaves Sothis to be slightly annoying by standing in the way of this Aether pot. From
I
here, we're
bestow
just
my
going to
blessing.
actually smite Peony onto this bolt trap and test it, see if we can't get a Winds of Mercy online. Nope, that's okay. We'll just
Fancy
force the
that.
issue by having Muspel stand on this. It's a big trap, that's fine. It just means that we have Wings of Mercy online to let Flame jump all the way up here and get out of the way of Sothis.
Of course.
We're not going to knock Sothis out here, since we do still want to pick up the second Aether pot,
What's your
but
plan?
this makes it much easier to do. And then from here, it's a lot more straightforward. We'll just swap Ash forwards,
Like this.
smite Flame forward one tile,
Is
which
something
lets her
afoot?
jump over Ash to pick up the second Aether pot,
Lord
while
Asker,
Ash
guide us.
one-shots Sothis and closes out the match. Nice and clean. Let's see what we get next. This match will be another pretty straightforward one. They've got an interesting lineup of threats on their defense, including this Harmonic Sita, who's pretty solid as an armor breaker thanks to being effective against, well, armored units and every type of physical weapon except for beasts. And being able to punch through follow-up denial is a really great way to let her get a second swing in and finish an opponent off. And they've also got an Astrid here, who's not someone I've seen on a defense. The rally and ruse, as well as the extra movement she can give and bonus doubler, can really catch people off guard if they aren't expecting it, and let Sita or this out-of-season legendary Lilina catch somebody completely by surprise. The Fjorm is an interesting choice on defense, and while I don't think she contributes too much to this, she can mess with people's setups if they forget that she can isolate this column near the middle. Triandra, as usual, is a solid enough dancer, a little vulnerable to isolation, but she can move forward to dance note here and catch people off guard, potentially. Although, parking Bremond in a corner like this really doesn't help their defense. While technically Triandra can let him out with guidance, it's unlikely for her to actually get over to this spot with Sita. And, well, Alina is a threat, but while she's out of season and the lack of seal does not really help her much. They're actually missing a few seals on their team. Overall, I'm not really expecting to have too many problems here. It should be a pretty straightforward match. Once I remember what my formation is supposed to look like. We are going to break this catapult just to shut down their first turn.
Ready.
And also take this
Away
time
we
to
go.
open up the front line.
Lord Asker, guide
And
us.
with all of that swapping around, I still almost goofed my opening position, but thankfully Mooseball can park Cash in the spot she's supposed to go.
This.
We'll move Milla over one tile to isolate these two for next turn, and say go. From here, we're going to
Truly?
use a few movement skills to move everybody into position.
What's your
And
plan?
we're also going to ruse Milla just to cut down on Lilina and Astrid and Tree Hunter's threat,
I bestow my
and
blessing.
smite Ash forward onto this heavy trap, which is fake, that's fine.
Of course.
Flane is just going to rescue Peony and put herself into position to keep Ash safe for next turn. Mooseball is going to swap Ash all the way forward, and then we're
Maybe
going to
this
dance in
way.
Fancy
and
that?
swap Peony further back. And then we'll say go. I'm pretty sure that we should sweep all of their team except for Note and Bramond here. Triandra gets to do a little bit of damage, but doesn't actually stick through the healing. And well, seeing that blazing, well, not blazing flame, but pre-charged special not do any damage, and
Consider it done.
then swing for another 0 in combat is a bit of an oof moment for Lilina. Lita can't do anything either, she's targeting Ash's defense,
Please forgive me.
and while she could get 2 hits in, she does need to survive that first hit. Astrid's just not getting anything done, especially without her bond skills
Consider it
online.
done.
And Null Sea Disrupt means that Fjorm's not surviving this combat either.
Do you try to understand?
And all of that leaves the field pretty clean for this next turn. And from here we can just swap Ash forward and let her break this Volt Tower,
I do not object.
while also tanking Note
Is something afoot?
and getting ready to pick up the last Ether Pots before we close out the match with Bramond.
Good morning.
Let's see now.
It will be done.
Note does get her bonus doubler, but it's not going to be enough to let her punch through Ash.
For Lord Asker.
And down she goes. And then from here we can just use Ash's warp effect to let Muspel get one tile further forward than his usual threat range,
Of course.
and then have Flame break the second pot,
Truly?
and let Ash close out the match. Down goes Bram. This match is going to be a fun one. They've got a neat selection of threats to work around here, including a Niffle, who's I think someone we're going to start seeing more of going forward. The ability to apply a flash effect in melee is really strong, and she can do a surprising amount of damage thanks to targeting res and working with a lot of in-combat debuffs. I think with a flow guard she'd actually be really hard to handle in the enemy phase. And they're backing her up with a Harmonic Cleave, whose built-in miracle effect is pretty obnoxious, along with the bonus weak Hell, who can do about the same thing, a near save Myrrh, and a far save Ileana, to help cover their team from any engaged strategies. The far save doesn't reach Hell or Note, which does open them up to some hit-and-run approaches on the left side. But this Impact Odd Tempest Rhea is really cool to see, and she's very tricky to actually finish off in one round of combat, since the follow-up denial from her weapon and impact mean that you really need null follow-up if you want to consistently double her in the enemy phase. I don't think we're going to have too many problems here. It should be a pretty straightforward match, and we're actually going to set up and get this fight started on the first enemy phase. We'll start by just having Flame jump forward past Ash, and then move Muspel forward and break this throne. Then we're going to Dense Muspel, which enables an Orders buff for both Ash and Milla,
I do not object.
and lets Ash jump past Muspel and clip him forward.
What's
And
your
then we'll
plan?
have Eliud rally Milla to use this center pack of units.
I bestow my
Milla
blessing.
can smite Ash forward and get her into position. Then we'll just move Muspel over one tile, and say go. From here, since we isolated Niffle, we should just watch Ash cleave her way through this entire team that can reach her.
Please forgive me.
Rhea doesn't actually get any damage reduction since Ash has got a lot of res to work with, so the extra damage she gets from Muspel is enough for her to one-shot Rhea in the enemy phase. Niffle should survive this first hit, I think,
For Lord Asker.
since 30% damage reduction does quite a bit, but Ash gets a guaranteed follow-up and means it's not too big a deal. And since she's also using Nullsea Disrupt, that doesn't stop her from continuing to destroy the rest of their team. Ileana goes in next, and, well, can't get anything done either.
Please forgive me.
Then Ash gets to punch through her second miracle effect in the same turn,
Please forgive me.
and takes down Leaf. Sadly, we can't quite get Note on this turn, but it's fine. It's just her and Myrrh now, so they shouldn't give us too many problems. And from here, we just really want to pick these Aether pots up before we close
Fancy
things
that?
out. So we're going to have Muspel swap Ash forward and continue giving her a full set of buffs. We're going
I
to
do
leave
not
Ash in
object.
place this turn so that we don't knock out Myrrh at the same time as Note. We actually ended up having a bit of an oops moment here where we forgot about Note's Pathfinder, and that does let Myrrh reach her this turn. But it shouldn't matter since Note has a lot less health than Myrrh, and should end up attacking her first because of that. At least that's what I hope. If we end up
Like
losing a
this.
pot because of this, I'll be a little bit sad.
Maybe this way. Of course.
But one way or another, we're getting at least
My
one
turn?
Aether pot, so... Let's see. Yep, Note moves into attack, and that means we don't make ourselves look too terrible. And do in fact get to pick the second Aether pot up. From
Is
here we're
something
going
afoot?
to just do a couple of shenanigans to reach the second Aether pot. After Flynn uses Ash to jump over here to... not really needed to break this catapult.
Let's see now.
We can have Eliud move up,
It will
which
be done.
gives Milla space to smite Peony forward,
Ready.
and dance Flame,
Away we
who
go.
can move in and pick up the Aether pot,
Truly?
while Ash can jump forward and bait out her. And, well, strong as Murray is with that new refine, she's not going to break through Ash here.
Please forgive me.
And down she goes. That was a fun one. Bit of a near miss in the middle of the match, but we pulled through. Let's see what we get next. This match will be a fun way to go into the end of the week, featuring a triple Pathfinder setup. I don't think I've actually seen one with 3 yet. I've seen 2, but the third Pathfinder really does a lot of work for enabling the threat range of Astrid and of Hapi, even though Hapi doesn't quite get the same level of threat range Astrid does. The rally and extra movement and bonus doubler that she can donate to anybody on her team, except for Hapi, who won't get the extra movement, is a great way to help make this a bit more threatening than it looks at first, and catch people off guard. Hapi herself is a serious threat to any beast or dragon that she runs into, and while they don't have a dancer to help enable this Eliwood, Pass is a really fun choice for him, and helps him sneak through enemy formations to find someone who's not supposed to get attacked. But without a dancer, he can't actually move until someone else gets knocked out, which holds him back a little bit. But he can still reach an enemy target pretty easily if these Pathfinders stay alive past that initial engagement. And of course a Fjorm to help screen the team from any ranged threats. She does a good job of it, although she might want to be using a deflect missile or deflect magic instead of distant defense, since brave users are one of the easier ways to punch through her. This is going to be a bit more straightforward than I thought it would be, thanks to a little bit of nonsense involving Flame. I was actually pretty concerned about having Ash tank this Hapi, but assuming I've done my math correctly, she should be able to pull it off.
What's
We're
your
going
plan?
to start things off by rallying Muspel, which freezes Hapi specifically.
Ready.
Then we'll dance him, and we'll move Muspel up here. And he's actually going to end up baiting Astrid. Sadly, we can't just have Ash do
Really?
that, because she's got a little too much extra movement range thanks to the Pathfinders.
Like
Milla's going to
this.
move over here,
My
and
turn?
then we'll have Eliwood ruse Ash, which completes her set of buffs and
Lord
also
Aster, guide us.
debuffs the rest of their team. And then
Is
Flame
something
can move into
afoot?
the safe spot behind Ash, and we'll say go. Astrid should move first since we isolated her. Yep. And she'll attack Muspel, but the triangle disadvantage and Muspel's very high defense stat means she's not accomplishing anything there. Then Hapi should move next and attack Ash, and do a pretty
If you run.
significant amount of damage, even through the 30% reduction. But it's not quite enough to finish Ash off, and she'll take 25 of those hit points right back, before proceeding to heal herself all the way back towards full health for the next couple of fights. Note goes down without any trouble, and the second one should follow through. These two are attacking before the Dogger since they have less health to
Quite
lose,
understand.
and by the time Dogger gets to attack, Ash is right back to full health and ready for more.
For Lord Asker.
And even though she doesn't have as much visible damage as it would take to finish Dogger off, Doctor can't really get much done thanks to Muspel's extra bonus damage. Hollywood's pass means that we're actually going to need to take these next couple of turns a little bit slower than I'd like. We're just going to have Hollywood rally Ash,
Away
then we'll
we
have
go.
Flame jump out here, start working our way towards this Aether pot.
Maybe
Peony
this
can
way.
dance her,
Of course.
and she'll just move further up to break this tactic room.
Lord
Ash is
Aster,
just going
guide
to
us.
move up and clean this tile and trap Astrid in a corner. And then we'll have Muspel move in behind her,
I bestow my blessing.
and Mila can move out this way. Hollywood moves in, but Ash is actually fast enough to punch through
Please
his
forgive me.
impact effect, and she one-shots him on the first hit anyway.
I
And
do
from
not
there, we're
object.
actually just going to have Ash test this trap and try to knock Fjorm out in one hit. It's real, that's fine.
Let's
So we'll
see
just
now.
have Ellie rally her and continue to block Astrid in place. We'll have Muspel jump over Fjorm and not attack her,
Ready.
because then we can have Ash get danced,
Lord Asker, guide
let
us.
her pick off Fjorm,
Is
and
something
then let
afoot?
Flame move in and pick off this Aether Fountain. Then we'll wait
It
one
will
more
be
turn to
done.
pick off the next one, and close out the match.
What's your
And we'll
plan?
just let Elliewood do that.
Now!
Move. Uh-oh. Had a little bit of a crash there, so thankfully we made it back in with the bookmark.
Lord
And just to
Asker,
avoid
guide
any
us.
more nonsense, we'll have Ash move in and close out the match here. Going pretty well out there. Kind of hilarious to see Ash tank a Happy, but well, apparently she can do that too. Let's see what we get next. This match will be another fun one near the end of the week. It's not quite as Pathfinder heavy as the last one, but Legendary Sigurd does really help enable these Pathfinder type setups to reach targets you don't want them to get to. And having a Harmonic Azura on their team as well can do a lot of the same thing by giving either Note or Hell some extra movement if you're not expecting them to get that. The extra stats she can give to her allies thanks to her weapon are also pretty relevant and can catch people off guard with just how bulky it makes Note, who doesn't usually get access to defense and res buffs for her weapon's bonus doubler effect. Having a near-save Edelgard on their front line to help dissuade any Gale Force attempts is a nice touch too. And having a spectrum of color coverage with Sigurd, Sita, and Note can help overwhelm any melee tanks that try to get through all of this. I don't think our melee tank is going to have too many problems here though, and we should be able to clean this up pretty easily overall. We're going to make sure we're isolating Sigurd here so that we don't have him rallying all over the map, since I'm not actually expecting him to be able to do damage to Ash.
Like
We're going
this.
to move Mila over here, and
What's your
then
plan?
rally Ash, which gets an extra ruse onto these three members of their team.
Ready.
Then we're going to let Peony dance Elliewood and help him just get further out of range of any potential dance attack from Azura. Muspel's going to swap Ash
Truly?
and let her move forward to tank, I think,
Is something
almost their
afoot?
entire team this turn. And then we can just rescue Muspel into position
Let's see now.
and move Elliewood down and say go. From here, I think the first thing that should happen is that Azura will dance. Yep. And from there, we should just start knocking out their team one at a time.
For Lord Asker.
Sigurd moves, or Geo Sigurd moves first, since he has the least health to lose. And, yeah. From there, we just knock them out by the health
Consider
chain
it done.
and attack range. Legendary Sigurd should come in next and let the rest of his team actually access us.
I will see it done.
But even he can't actually get damage done here.
Do try to
And,
understand.
well, the ruse does stop him from getting a second Holy Night Aura, but it would have been kind of funny to see him goose through with it both times. Now that Note can reach us, she moves in next, and should be followed by Hell, before Edelgard finally moves in and takes her shot.
Consider it done.
And down goes Hell, and Edelgard's the last one.
For Lord Asker.
Kind of wild to see Ash carve her way through 6 units in a single turn like that. As good as it was, we do still need to make sure that we don't let Azura get herself knocked out, or find a knockout herself, before we reach these Aether pots. And thankfully we do have 2 units who should be very good at making sure that doesn't happen.
What's
So
your
we're just
plan?
going to start by rallying Milla, which makes sure that Azura doesn't even get to charge her Moonbow.
I bestow my blessing.
Milla can break this
Good
and
morning.
get danced to
It
move
will
up
be
and
done.
start cornering her,
Now!
while Moosewool can jump past Ash to
I do not
help
object.
continue the formation,
Of course.
and from there she can't really go anywhere. She's chasing Moosewool. She can do a little bit of damage to him, but that's not enough to be too concerning. And Kento means that she actually gets herself in a nice easy corner to let us secure the rest of this match.
Lord
So we'll
Asker
just move
guide
Ash
us.
forward and Moosewool forward, which keeps her stuck in place.
I
Then
bestow
we'll
my
break the tactic
blessing.
room and let Peony out of
Let's
this
see
corner.
now.
We'll dance at Leland so he can
way.
reach this
My
first
turn?
Aether pot.
Away
And
we
we
go.
flame forward with Rescue. And then
What's
from
your
here,
plan?
Hollywood can break one pot,
Fancy
Moosewool
that?
can break the other one, and Ash can... Oh, I actually forgot to check this fortress at the start of the match, didn't realize we had an advantage there. It would still have turned
do
out the
not
way it
object.
did, it's just a little bit more one-sided than it needed to be. This match should be a fun way to close out the week. It's a free match with the only person who actually cost me lift this week and stopped Ash from getting a rank 1 finish. Kind of unfortunate, but that's okay. We have a neat little setup here involving a legendary Sigurd and harmonic Catria, and a Gatekeeper on defense, which is actually really neat and something I'm trying to figure out a way to include in my own defenses, especially in Dark Weeks, to help mitigate the nonsense that Ash can enable. They've also got a bonus week Dogger and a Micaiah on their team. Micaiah is another one that I haven't really seen very often on defenses, but I think she can be really strong, especially in win seasons, thanks to the combination of armor and cavalry effectiveness and damage reduction from her beast skill. Their Hell is actually pretty sneaky too, since she's using a Fortify Flyers and Hone Attack, which really helps enable this Dogger and gives her extra penalties from her weapon. The rallies from Catria and Sigurd are mostly here to try and help enable a triangle attack, even if someone tries to bait from out of range of where triangle attacks would normally land. But there's a bit of a flaw to that I'm hoping to exploit, since if we isolate this column with Micaiah and Dogger, there actually shouldn't be any targets for Catria or Sigurd to rally before the combats begin. We'll see. I'm actually going to go ahead and get this started on the first turn again.
Of course.
It'll just have Flame open up this statue. This tile where she's standing should actually always be safe, even after Sigurd uses his Holy Night Aura, since it only extends the threat range of Micaiah and Dogger by 1. And as long as we're actually baiting these two out, there should be no chance that Note extends that threat range any further.
It
From
will
here,
be
we'll
done.
just have Milla move down this way, and isolate this column for next turn, since we'd rather not have harsh command from Gatekeeper interfering with anything.
Lord Asker, guide
Then
us.
Ash can move up here and open up this structure.
My turn?
We'll have Eliud ruse her,
Good
and then
morning.
have Peony dance him and get him out of any potential danger. Muspel will move over here to support Ash,
Let's see
and
now.
Eliud can move over here and clear the last structure. From here, I think the first thing that happens should be that... Oh, Sigurd attacks first. Okay,
On your guard.
that's fine. I actually expected
Do you try to understand?
Micaiah to go first, but Sigurd can actually get a bit of damage done with that Holy Knight aura. Then the rally comes through, and Micaiah attacks next. Unfortunately for her, she doesn't actually get to triangle attack since Katria was able to move just a little too far out of her range. And Micaiah just wipes her. Ash just wipes out Micaiah with one hit. Bell moves in next, and,
Please
well,
forgive me.
from here things should be pretty one-sided. Docker can do a little bit of damage,
Consider it done.
but it's not enough to avoid getting one-shotted on the counterattack. It was a good first turn, and I'd still like to pick up these Aether Pots, even though it's not necessary in the last match of the week. So what we're going to do
What's your
is
plan?
try and rig things to let Gatekeeper be the last unit standing, since he's a lot easier to kite around than Note is.
Ready.
We'll just dance Eliud after that ruse,
Like
and then
this.
smite him over this way.
Truly?
And then Ash's teleport
Is
will
something
let
afoot?
Flame jump all the way down here.
I do not object.
Ash herself is
My
going to
turn?
get rallied by Eliud, and then
Truly?
move over this way,
Now.
and then we'll move Muspel behind her. I think Katria should move first, since, yeah, she has less health to lose than Gatekeeper does.
Do you try to understand?
Which means that the other two won't get in range this turn.
I do
From
not
here,
object.
we're going to continue our campaign to isolate Gatekeeper by moving Ash
Maybe
forward,
this way.
dancing her,
It will be done.
then smiting her onto this bolt trap, which is real. That's fine. Honestly, the bolt trap being real is not
I do
terrible.
not object.
We would have been able to knock Note out one way or another, but this just makes it a little easier.
What's
What we're
your
going
plan?
to do, though, is move Eliud out of the way,
Away we go.
have Flame heal Ash to start, and top her up a little bit,
Lord Asker, guide us.
and then we'll move Muspel over here to bait Gatekeeper for next
I
turn,
do not object.
and then have Ash finish off Note. And even though Muspel does tank a hit from the Bolt Tower, Gatekeeper's just not quite able to do enough damage to finish him off.
It
From
will
here,
be
we're
done.
actually going to have Muspel tank Gatekeeper one more time by smiting him over here and letting Muspel pick up,
Fancy that.
and not quite letting him reach this Aether Pot this turn. This detailed report is actually making things a little tricky to get to these pots at the end of the match, but that's okay.
Ready.
Then we're going to dance more
Truly?
and just start moving Ash up towards this other Aether Pot. It's fine.
I bestow my blessing.
And then we'll move Milla over this way
Of course.
and have Flame move up to heal
Let's see now.
and say go. Gatekeeper shouldn't be able to finish Muspel off here. He can do a little bit more damage, but it's still just not quite enough.
It
From
will
here,
be done.
even with all of the gravity effects and obstructionist tactics of Gatekeeper, we should still be able to box him in this turn and then proceed to finally pick these Aether Pots up.
I do not
Smite
object.
and reposition will
Is
let
something
Flame reach
afoot?
this tile, And then
Now.
Muspel can step over and lock him in place.
My turn?
And then we'll have Eliwood move over this way and
Good
get ready to
morning.
pick up the pot for next turn.
What's your plan?
And from there,
My turn?
Eliwood can pick up one pot.
Away we go.
Oh, for the love of...
Be
And while
something
Flame
afoot.
can't quite get out of range of Gatekeeper yet, Muspel can swap her upwards,
Of
let
course.
her pick up the second pot, and
Truly?
then we'll have Ash close out the week. This is a pretty impressive Gatekeeper. Fun to see.
The way is shut.
But Ash will open it back up again.
For Lord Asker.
And down he goes. It was a really fun week overall. It was honestly surprised that Ash was able to Omni-tank her way through the entire week. It was fun to see. And that Gatekeeper in last match ended up being a surprisingly difficult obstacle to get past. It might have been better to actually just leave the note alive. I'm not actually sure yet which teams I'm going to be using for next week, but I'll figure it out. I do have a Discord channel, there's a link in the description if you'd like to hang out and chat, and I've also got a Patreon page in there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.